good evening. I'm Alice Bloom, and joining me is
Ken Barron.
Ken, it's great to see you. We are here live at the Mamaroneck Village Firemen's Parade. Ken, this is a really big year, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is the 125th year of the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department. It seems like just yesterday. Don't you remember when we started this?
No, I don't remember 125 years ago. But you were there, weren't you?
Absolutely. It seems that way some days. Anyway.
Now, I really appreciate your sitting with me today because it's a night when you might have wanted to march.
Yes, the Hook and Ladder Company, which was the founding company of the fire department, is going to be one of the lead units in the parade, and they're going to march as a unit. But I couldn't find a volunteer to sit here, so you folks are stuck with me.
Gosh, I hope it wasn't me. No, I'm really delighted to see you, and I know we get a chance to talk about the history of the fire department a little bit.
Yes, we'll try and fill that in. We're not live on camera yet, but I do have a book. Went back to one of our anniversary years where there's a lot of history in the fire department. I've tried to read for the last few nights to refresh the circuits.
Yeah, well, there
Here
is a
we
lot
go.
of history.
They put us on.
Well, there we are. Now you can see who's talking. Now, the 125th anniversary of the fire department. That's also the 125th anniversary of which department? Of which division?
Well, actually, Hook and Ladder was the founding company, and they were founded June 5th, 1884. Got stuck with the 19s. 1884, and they were the founding company, and the other companies followed us. Some of them were started with original members of Hook and Ladder, which went off and formed other companies and around the village. And one of the reasons you might notice that the firehouses tend to be grouped close to Mamaroneck Avenue, because in 1884, this was the center of the village, and that's where most of the fire protection was required at that point in time. There was a lot of estates surrounding the downtown area.
Right. Was this what they called Village Square? Do you
I
know?
believe that was Post Road and Mamaroneck Avenue, but okay. I'm not exactly sure.
Because that was referred to in the journal. I was given a copy of the commemorative journal of the 53rd Annual Convention of the Firemen's Association of the State of New York, which took place on August 17th to 22nd, 1925, right here in the village of Mamaroneck.
Yes. The actual entrance to Harbor Island back in that time frame actually had buildings on all of the different corners, and that were suppliers. Most people don't realize it, but Mamaroneck Harbor was a major transportation hub for product in and out of New York City. The farmers getting their product to the city and supplies coming up from the city. And it was a major point. So Harbor Island has been a lot more than a beach.
It sure was. Well, also, Harbor Island was really an island. It wasn't the park that it is today.
No, it was along the Post Road towards the harbor side was really a marshy area. And at some point in time, it was actually a dump prior in the 20s or something like that. And when they actually filled it in during the WPA, there was a lot of trash that was buried back down in there.
Well, fortunately, we've come a long way since then.
Yes, well, topography and use has changed dramatically.
Now, the Hook and Ladder Company has now moved into a new location.
Yes, those of you that have been on Palmer Avenue, we have a glorious 4-bay firehouse, houses 4 vehicles at street level, and the meeting rooms on the 3rd floor. The middle windows, when you go by, actually just light up the truck floor. There is no floor behind them.
I see. But what's happened to the old Hook and Ladder building that's actually just across the street from where we are today?
That's an unknown. It has been vacated for all practical purposes. There's still some clutter to be cleaned up, but by and large, it's no longer in use. It's owned by the village, and I don't know that there's been any serious decisions made about its future.
Well, you know, Kathy Savold, the mayor of the village of Mamaroneck, promised to stop by a little later. Maybe we'll ask her what the plans are, if they know yet.
Yeah, as I said, there doesn't seem to be any solid plans. I think they're still wrapped up. Our firehouse is not completely finished. There's that ubiquitous punch list that needs to be cleaned up, and there's some issues among the builders and stuff, and things to be finished up, as in any new construction.
Now, what's the
name
of that new house?
Headquarters would be my...
that's what it's called, because that was the site of the Mamaroneck.
Mamaroneck was fire. If you go by there, you will notice that on one side of the building they've labeled Mamaroneck, on one side labeled Hook and Ladder, but I think we're going to call it headquarters because there is a chief's office, an official chief's office there as part of the building, so it will probably be called headquarters.
Now, Mamaro would have been the second department.
Yes,
second house that
Mamaro
was
was
open.
actually formed out of a unit that was part of the ladder company, and they took that hose unit that they have, which is on display sometimes at the different functions, and it's on the back of the apparatus floor in the new building on display.
Okay, well, it's worth taking a look. If anybody wanted to go over and just visit the firehouse, may they do that?
Yeah, except unless there's somebody there, it's somewhat all locked up. But if the doors are open and there's folks around, they'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Now, the fire department used to have brunch on Sunday. I remember the kids used to go by and they were able to climb on the fire truck, and sometimes there were bagels.
Yeah, well, it was a Sunday morning meeting, if you will. A lot of unofficial business was attended to. A certain amount of training and drilling went on. Unfortunately, across the years, that has changed. There's less of it.
Okay, well, maybe that could be resurrected. I remember going there with my then 3-year-old, and it was a fun time. Everybody likes to climb on the fire truck.
Absolutely. It's better than kindergarten stuff.
You know, I think I've heard the whistle. I'm not sure because sadly the reviewing stand has moved out of our site. It's up the street now. It used to be just where we could see it, and we could see the excitement when the whistle blew. I think I heard a horn. I guess it's a little bit late tonight, a little bit late getting started.
Probably line up. Sometimes we have problems getting all the units into town if there's any heavy traffic on the interstate, things of that nature. Takes a little while to get it organized.
Well, you know, we're extremely lucky, as everybody knows. It has not rained.
No.
It does not look like it's going to rain, and I do believe we are going to have a glorious night.
However, there may be some excitement. This wind keeps going up. The tent they have us sitting under might leave.
Oh, no, Ken. Everything's going to be perfect. And so I encourage anybody who's out there, who'd like to come down. It is beautiful this evening. It's cool. It is a little windy, but not horribly so, and it's just delightful. So a fun thing to do. You know, it's such a luxury to be able to have some time to talk before the sirens start.
There you go. Yes, keep in mind that we do not talk over sirens or pipe bands.
You know, as I was reading the commemorative journal from this 53rd annual convention, I really started to appreciate the nature of volunteer fire departments and to understand that we are really a rare breed these days.
Actually, for a suburban community, we're a very rare breed.
Most of our neighboring communities have gone to either a hybrid division where you combine both volunteers and paid people, or some are just completely paid.
Yes, that's true. Village of Mamaroneck has been blessed with enough personnel that we're able to provide a volunteer service 24/7. And we do have the people coming in. An awful lot of it is father to son, brother to brother, and fathers to daughters now. So we've managed to keep the fire department alive and functioning, and we're always looking for members. If you're out there and bored, we'd love to have you.
Well, even if you're not bored, but if you are committed to service, there's a place for you.
Absolutely.
And that's even if you don't work in the village of Mamaroneck.
No, you're basically a resident. We're looking for residents of the village of Mamaroneck. So when the horn goes off at 2 in the morning, there's a good chance we can get you here.
Right. Well, it is so important, and I'm sure you'd be welcome. What are the requirements or the qualifications for someone who's interested in being a fireman here, a fire person here?
Breathing.
Oh, no.
Actually, just looking for people that have normal, good physical activity, can lift a fair amount of weight, and will take an interest.
And how about the training? What does that entail?
Training these days has changed a little bit. It used to be 13 nights of 3 hours. The state, in their wisdom, has extended to cover more of the technical stuff, so I believe we're up to 72 hours of training in what we call a Essentials of Firemanship program, which basically acquaints the new firefighter with all of our different types of equipment, the different types of events that you would be expected to appear at, and training that goes along with it, and the names of all the different equipment, and it's broken up into a number of different subjects. So you go from very basic to actually experiencing some smoke and heat.
Now, I think a feeder for the fire department is often the Explorer unit.
Yes, we have a nice, strong Explorer unit here in the village. I believe last I checked, there were somewhere around 20 young people that were participating in it. They meet once a month. and they do train alongside of us. They don't get to go into burning buildings, but they do get to handle a certain amount of the fire equipment that's outside the building. And there's also quite a bit of socializing. They go off and meet with other scouting units, and they have outings and different events that hold the interest of people in their late teens.
So how old do you need to be to join the Explorer unit?
I want to say 14. It was part of the Explorer, and I think it's 14 is what they're looking for.
And need you have been a scout or anything else like that before?
Well, it's a division of scouting. It's a specialized division of scouting that relates to firefighting. The Explorer Scouts have lots of different kinds of divisions, depend on where you live and what some of the interests are. I think they've been involved with the CAP, the Civil Air Patrol. There's a division for that. If you're out in the farm country, there's divisions that talk about farming and husbandry and things of that nature. And it sounds like something is happening.
Something's happening. Well, as soon as we see it, you'll see it. Right now, we're looking at the crowd, which is still ambling around. I want to return for a moment to that journal that I was telling you about, because some of the essays, particularly one by Dennis L. O'Connor, was particularly moving. He talked about the designation of volunteer outside of war belonging to the firefighters. In no other department of state or municipal government will be found service without pay for it, emphasizing what we owe to the volunteer firemen. It was really very poignant and very moving. And he talked about the pride that firemen take in their companies is one of service, that service is not within its range of possibilities, political preferment, nor has it the beckon of wealth acquirement. Yeah. Interesting language, of course.
Yeah, when you read some of these things that were written in the early 1900s, a slightly different use of the English language.
Certainly, and it is a little hard to access. But, the point being, nobody's gotten rich being a volunteer firefighter.
No, there's no money to be made there, and it's a love of community and a person who really wants to roll up their hand, get their hands dirty, assisting their neighbors.
I see. I'm beginning to hear some sirens coming down the street.
Actually, as we get this, I'm going to read off the starting units, because I find in the past we usually get cut off with the noise.
Okay.
When they come into the screen, you're going to see the Village of Mamaroneck Police Motorcycle Unit, along with the Harrison Police Motorcycle Unit, and a group called the Red Knights Motorcycle Unit. Are going to lead off and wake up anybody that happens to be sleeping along Mamaroneck Avenue.
And I'm hearing a band. What band would that be?
We also have the lead band is going to be the New York City Police Department Band, which I believe is a pipe and drum unit, if I remember correctly.
Okay, well, I think they're going to come on to our screen any minute, because I'm hearing them. And here we are sitting right across from the Christian Science reading room. So, you get a sense for where the marchers might be. They're probably at least a block up the street now. Probably near CBS, if I had my guess.
Probably.
And we're going to see them soon. It's a good chance to thank the so many community organizations and businesses that have helped us. We wouldn't be here today without the generosity of the Christian Science Reading Room, of Hector's Village Cafe, of Piccolo Molino, of course, the Emlyn Theater. All the folks who've allowed us to bring wires through their businesses and are supplying us with electricity. Couldn't be done without them. We really are grateful for all of their help.
There's also a large group of from your
all of our volunteers.
LMC-TV unit, which we'll get to towards the end of the program. Hopefully we won't leave anybody out. And I'll apologize now for if we do skip anybody.
Oh, no, we won't. And, of course, I'm sitting here looking at Vincent's truck, because Vincent's garage always lends us a flatbed, and we would not get the great shots that you're going to see tonight without Vincent's help. Ken, I think we're going to be silent for a little while, because the parade is here.
You can probably hear this noise coming through our mics. That should be the Village of Mamaroneck Police Unit.
You can hear the crowd starting to applaud. They seem to have been halted here.
Well, they probably can't get too far ahead. It's just you can accelerate a little bit those motorcycles and leave the parade behind, you know.
I see. That's right, those marchers have to keep up with the motorcycles. It's not a fair fight. It is such a relief that it's so cool tonight. I always feel so badly when I see everyone in their dress uniforms, which are really winter uniforms.
Well, yeah, this is breezy, though.
Yes, this is quite comfortable.
We may be looking for a jacket before this is over. Sounds like the police band is caught up with the motorcycle folks. The fellow waving is a relative. I don't know if you can hear me over the noise, but this is our color guard with ex-Captain Skippy Donahue, ex-Captain William Fraser, firefighter Victor Malinowski, and his son David.
Oh, the tall gentleman on the screen.
Yep, and we have the Grand Marshal, John Paul, with his children. And along behind him is Chief of Department Dean DeLitta with his children. Robert Pescia with his daughter, and Chris Simonowski with his son. And this is the contingent from Hook and Ladder following up. Always somebody running in and out of formation.
Fire truck.
And ex-Chief Rod Brendolin's riding in the convertible. We actually have, Rod is up in his upper 80s, and we have two members. One is almost 100 and the other's 93. Unable to attend, unfortunately, tonight. And the ladder truck's kind of showing off with its ability to move back and forth across the street. I don't think he's caught that on camera, though.
You know, I have to note, Ken, as I was reading through this journal, and it was so interesting that most of the apparatus was initially purchased with money raised from picnics and dances, and they started with one little pumper and one little horse-drawn carriage. And I look at the amount of equipment that we have now.
Oh, yes, and the price is noticeably different.
Now, who are these folks, Ken? Have you got?
I believe those are some of our scouts coming through, I believe. What do we got?
Okay.
Oh, we got that's got to be that is the Scout Post 244, followed by the Ladies Auxiliary. Those of you that know Jimmy Mancusi, the harbor master, that's his daughter there in the middle of the three people on the street.
And another convertible coming up.
Yeah. Ladies Auxiliary, which I believe was formed in the 1920 time frame. I believe they're something like 85 years in service.
That's right. That's right.
You know, I had a 57 Chevy once upon a time.
Now, he's not
If
on
I had
camera,
only
but
known.
there's our Reverend Hank in a convertible, in a very classy Chevy, I think.
That's what I said. I had one of those once
He's
upon a
right
long
there
time
it is.
ago.
Am I right? Is that a
57 Chevy, that's what it was.
Now, and I think women don't know anything about cars. I ask you.
They all
get
liked
some
that
points for that.
57, as I remember.
And which contingent is this, Ken? You've got the list.
I believe this is the American Legion Post 90, which is our local post. And I believe also the Sons of the American Legion are marching with them. We're also going to find the Knights of Columbus Color Guard, the Village of Mamaroneck Police Color Guard, and followed by the village and visiting officials. Now, this last group here is the Sons of the American Legion, local unit.
I see. Now, tell me, not everybody brings a band. How do they decide? Can any fire
Well, you
department
can all
bring
bring a band, but the cost of bands has changed dramatically across the years. So what they try to do is spread out the bands through the parade with their units so that you get some music.
So the bands are independent.
Yes,
and
you
therefore hire.
contract with them.
I see.
And
when,
each year we find a band that we like, and they'll contract for the different parades that we go to.
that is one beautiful animal in that truck. And so when the Village of Mamaroneck goes to other parades, what bands do we hire? Do we have a favorite?
I don't know. I do know a couple of times they use the Brassmen. I don't really know who they have contracted with recently. I haven't paid close attention.
I see. Well, those kids look like they've got the best seat in the house. You see them?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Perfect. We seem to have a lull in sirens, and these gentlemen?
I believe, that's got to be the Knights of Columbus Color Guard. That's where we are here. Knights of Columbus.
Well, it's a nice evening when you're duded up like that.
Yep.
If you've got to wear heavy capes and hats, this is the weather to be marching.
Yep.
Now here's our mayor, Kathy Savold, and supervisor, Valerie O'Keefe. Looked like Augie Fusco. Trustees Ryan and Hofstetter just went by. I saw Judy Myers a moment ago, our county legislator.
If we sometimes have trouble with the camera that we're looking at is 50 feet in front of us, so they often get to see the folks coming before we do.
Well, there they are. Great to see them all. Great to see them all. And maybe we'll go back to our elected officials. We see them, but we see a gentleman.
That's that Chief Joe, the fellow that replicates the chief from Mamaroneck many years ago.
I see. Now, this is another beautiful old convertible.
Yeah. Older
right
Cadillac convertible.
Chief, right. The chief is holding things up. That convertible cannot move any faster
Joe
than he
Ritchie
can.
as a Sienoi Indian chief.
Okay.
For those of you, Joe Ritchie's one of the barbers here in town.
Okay. Oh, and I just saw
Judge Lanza in the yellow.
Lanza was in the yellow convertible. Oh, and look at this old truck.
Yep.
Was that a Village of Mamaroneck truck?
No, I don't believe so. I think that's just part of the antique division.
Okay. What a beauty that was. When you say part of the antique division, I mean, what does that mean? Who owns that truck?
There's an antique fire department group that collects antique fire trucks and uses them in parades and things like that. According to my notes, we were supposed to possibly have a representation of Mamaroneck High School baseball champs.
Oh, that's right, and they've won another championship, right?
Yeah.
Right, state champions again. But I didn't see them.
No, I didn't see them either, but they were listed here.
Right. Well, perhaps they'll be along a little later, unless that's them. No,
And this is the Mamaroneck Youth Hockey Association coming down the street.
They are cute. It must be a great thrill for them to be marching.
I'm sure it is.
I think there are a few parents marching along behind them.
Yep.
Great.
Supervision.
Great. Well, they haven't lost any kids yet. They seem to all still be there. It's a long hike for them, too. The parade steps off up at the Mamaroneck Avenue School, as I recall.
Yes, they do. They get a good walk.
And there's a shot of one of our newest establishments, Molly's Spillane.
Okay, this must be the first division coming through.
Aha, the bagpipes.
There we go.
Talk fast, Ken. We never talk over bagpipes.
And Division Marshal is going to be Past Chief Dave Barney. Along in his aide is ex-Captain Roger Gutierrez. They both represent from Mamaroneck. Roger looks lonesome out there. And this group is the Yorktown Irish Pipes and Drums, and we'll be quiet for a moment. And they're leading the town of Mamaroneck Fire Department. And usually once the members go by, you got all the apparatus from the town of Mamaroneck here. Because when they get to the Boston Post Road, they can make a right and go home.
It was very
the apparatus, not the firefighters.
It was interesting to read the history of the Mamaroneck Fire Department and see that the Weaver Street Firehouse was probably considered as part of the village of Mamaroneck, even though it was the town of Mamaroneck.
Yeah, there was way back. There was not as much division is more. The division's more formal now. I think it was less formal.
That's right. It was the last house to be formed. Though.
Yeah.
All the houses in the village of Mamaroneck came to be first.
I'm not sure when the political entities started, and that had a lot to do with the political entities. Because there was actually 3 fire companies that formed and vanished. If you go through our history, there was an Orienta engine.
Yes, that's right.
There was a Bonnie engine, and there was a patrol company that, if you read back through our history, that were formed, kind of came and went.
Well, I think the Orienta one was formed after there had been a bad fire.
Yes.
In Orienta, and so...
Well, actually, all the fire departments were usually formed after bad fires. That's what started the village of Mamaroneck. There was a section of buildings up on the Boston Post Road that had a major conflagration in the late 1800s that actually caused them to start a fire department.
Okay, we're looking at our friends from the town of Mamaroneck. Didn't have to travel a very long way. Now, do they bring their trucks right back home, or do they go into the harbor?
I would imagine one or two of the pieces will go back to the fire headquarters to stand by, but most of the rest of them will probably be parked down along the post road and available for service if needed.
Okay, and these gentlemen, I can't see from the screen, are these town of Mamaroneck?
That was the town of Mamaroneck, and I think we're getting Harrison here coming through, I believe. No, this is the town of Mamaroneck. More town. This is the firefighters from the town of Mamaroneck. I'm sorry.
There's quite a shindig down at the harbor after the parade, isn't there?
Absolutely. Beer and hot dogs. Refreshments and hot dogs.
Okay. Now, we also sometimes talk about the judging. This is a very big deal for a lot of the fire departments. They're after trophies.
Yes, I don't know if those of you that might have been walking up and down the avenue in the last few days, Chatswood Storage has had their front window full of trophies. I think we give out some 60 odd, so there's a very good chance you'll go home with one.
Okay. But the departments are quite proud of the trophies they win.
You go into almost any firehouse, there's walls full of trophies. They get for best appearing apparatus, best appearing men. Maybe they got an antique piece that goes to a lot of parades and wins trophies. There's a number of given out, and there's usually place 1, 2, and 3. So there's a lot of to be awarded. We've
often remarked when we could see the reviewing stand, we could watch as people approach the stand and how they were so
dress up,
yes, they were
dress themselves right
and
up.
Holding themselves so formally, and then as soon as they passed the stand, they could relax, unbutton that jacket, and slouch a little.
Well, that was town of Mamaroneck and Harrison went by, and now they're followed by Kent and Carmel. We went up county for this. That's Putnam Valley. Well, this is still a Harrison unit coming through in front of us.
Is there any particular rhyme or reason to the order of march or order of procession?
Not that I'm aware of, but then I haven't served on the assignment committee.
Okay. And then I'm sure, since people have to come quite a distance, that people get in line wherever, if they're there.
Actually, no. I think a lot of it has to do with when their acceptances come in. They kind of, as the acceptances come in, they line them up accordingly.
But I'm saying sometimes we've had difficulties where some fire departments were coming a long distance and had delays in traveling and arrived later.
Yeah, well, they'll plug them in as necessary.
Right. So we're doing the best we can with
you're getting
our
a
order.
good view of, you had a good view of the town of Mamaroneck equipment. Now we're looking at the Harrison equipment.
No green fire trucks yet. They're all red and deep burgundy. Now, of course, the equipment itself has changed over the years. It's no longer a ladder and a hose.
Well, that still is basic equipment.
Right.
You definitely use the hose to get the water flowing, and anytime you got to work to the upper levels, we're using the ladders, but there's a lot of specialized equipment that some of them carry foam. They add to the water. We also have larger diameter hoses to move more water quickly.
Who are we seeing here, Ken? I can't tell from the screen.
I'm guessing that this is Kent. I didn't see anything to designate it.
Does that look like the Kent Fire Department?
Yes, that was the gentleman going by Clinton. This yellow one is Kent Cliffs, which is all part of the Kent Mahopac area up in the Putnam County area.
Finally, a green-yellow
fire
truck.
Brighten things up.
I guess that's an up-county fad.
No, we go through color schemes from time to time.
I know we've talked about that before and how everyone's concerned about visibility, but there doesn't seem to be a consensus as to what color is most
color it is. There's been a lot of studies on color. I've always held that if you can't see all those flashing lights, the color's rather immaterial.
All right, and who are these
All right, this is
folks?
the Young Colonels, and they're going to be leading the Carmel Fire Department. And we're going to be quiet.
Now, Nancy, we're joined, as I said, by Nancy Seligson, councilwoman in the town of Mamaroneck. So, Nancy, how many parades have you marched in?
This is my 10th year as a council person, so I think you have to say 10 times 1 or 2 or 3 a year, a lot.
Really? Well, of course, there's the Memorial Day parade.
Yes, and we have the Larchmont parade. We've got Halloween parades. I mean, we've got all kinds of parades. In fact,
dress up for Halloween?
Sometimes. Memorial Day, though, 4th of July, and Labor Day are all pretty serious events in our community. So, you know, we always take advantage of that to celebrate and commemorate and to dress in red, white, and blue.
Right.
Can I just make one mention of Long Island Sound a second? Because, you know, that's where I spend a lot of my time working, is for Long Island Sound. And there was recently sighted 100 dolphins in Long Island Sound, right off Larchmont Harbor.
Is that the first time dolphins have been seen
First time
here?
that anyone can remember. But I have heard old-timers say that 40, 50, 60 years ago, they do remember seeing dolphins. But it's a very, very rare, unusual sight, and really a fabulous sight, because it speaks of the water quality improvement in Long Island Sound.
Well, I think we have people like you to thank for that, and your work with Listwick.
Yes.
Right, the Long Island
Sound Watershed Intermunicipal Council.
Thank you, I couldn't have got that.
And the Long Island Sound Study, and so many environmental nonprofit groups as well.
And we've come a long way from that time, that awful time in the 80s when
Yes.
fish were dying and nobody understood what was happening.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of improvement, and it's great because the dolphins are here because there's a lot of herring running in the Sound, which means that they're chasing the food source, and to have it here is fantastic.
Isn't that
Water's
great?
definitely cleaned up.
Yeah.
Well, that is wonderful, and you should be very proud of all your hard work, and we should be very
Thanks.
grateful to you and your
Well,
colleagues for all you've done.
thanks.
Nancy, thanks so much for joining
It
us.
was my pleasure. Enjoy the evening and
Thank
the great
you.
parade.
Thank you. Bye now. who has just passed by? Yes.
Spirit of 76, and we got Eastchester Fire Department coming.
Eastchester Fire Department's coming up. Okay, and we're joined with another friend from the town of Mamaroneck, Councilman Ernie Onierna. Hi, Ernie.
Hi.
Great to see you. You are dressed in red, white, and blue.
Yes.
Well,
My wife dressed me.
I see. And is that
I thought I dressed myself this morning. When I came in, she said, "You're not going out with that."
Well,
I
we
got
can count
redressed.
on Camille. You look very appropriate
Thank
tonight.
you, thank
now,
you.
who are these beautiful young women you brought with you?
Well, I had some escorts tonight. This is my granddaughter, Ruby,
Hi, Ruby.
and this is her friend,
Hi, Olivia.
Olivia.
Nice to see
Right.
you. Did you have fun marching in the parade?
Yes.
It's good. It's the first time?
Yeah. No, I've been in other parades. But
Oh, Olivia's been in other parades. Well,
I've
have a
I've
star.
marched with him like half of it.
that's a long walk for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It started out at her school. She goes to Mamaroneck Avenue School, and Olivia goes to Central School.
I see.
So they knew more people in the parade than I did.
I'm sure
All
that's
their
right.
friends were here watching.
Well, now you know who you are. There's Ruby's grandfather, right?
Right.
Who's your name?
I had them practicing waving in the car,
I see.
but they're experienced wavers. So
Well, I'm sure that was appreciated. Did you girls see lots of friends?
Yes, I saw it.
Great. I'm glad. We're of course right near the Christian Science reading room, so we can't see the whole crowd, but maybe we'll get a shot up the street a little later. Was it very crowded? Are the streets
it was
very
crowded pretty far up, yes.
That's
yeah.
great.
It's great that the weather held out because
Yes.
all week we've been worried about rain and thunder.
Well, you know, when you realize how much volunteer time
Ah.
goes into the planning of this, both from our fire department, all of our officials, and of course all the other departments that have to make the
Just
effort to come.
staging them, keeping them, in position so that they're ready to march at the right time. Alice, we enjoyed walking with George Latimer also.
I saw George. Did he
Yes, yes.
disappear? I
He
saw.
had two other engagements at Rye and some other locations.
That's
for
our
parades,
George,
so
right? He had to make a lot. Well, I'm very slighted. I'm going to tell him that. He always
He tried
stops
to
by.
wait, but he
well,
just-
we're
he
glad
just
he's
had to
here and he's not a captive in Albany like our state senator is right now.
Yeah, that's a
These are
serious issue.
These are interesting times we're living in. That's
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
Fortunately, the village of Mamaroneck wasn't waiting for the state senate to make a decision.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing, or we would not be having
Right.
a
parade
parade
or-
tonight.
or anything else.
Ernie, so tell us, in the brief moment we have before the next sirens come down the street, anything particularly interesting happening in the town of Mamaroneck right now?
Well, there seems to be a lot of energy focused on sharing services with the two villages. So wherever we can do things better and save money at the same time, it's kind of like motherhood this year.
Okay.
Everyone's for it. We're really putting all of our brain power together. Some of the best people in each community are participating. We're getting a committee together to really focus on it, tie it in with some of the things that the League of Women Voters has done, and really try to come up with some meaningful savings, and not only savings, but ways of doing things better.
Good. We'll talk more, I know, but probably not tonight.
All right, if you didn't figure it out, that was the Brassmen going by. They always put on quite a show. They're a very active band here in the county, and they also do a lot of competition marching. And they were leading the Ardsley Fire Department.
The legacy of their sound persists. They're probably at the harbor, but we still hear them. They make their presence known. Thank you, Ardsley. Well, Ernie, thank you so much for stopping by and for bringing these lovely ladies with you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I hope your granddad brings you down to the carnival. Going to have a hot dog? Well, we have lots of
sophisticated palace.
That's right. Well, we've got lots of good food here in the village of Mamaroneck.
Thanks, Alice.
Come back and visit us again. Enjoy the evening. I noticed as I looked at the fire department, the fire truck parked right next to us, and it says call 911, dial 911. It's hard to imagine a time when there was no 911.
Yeah, you used to just call the operator and hope that they could get you help.
Right, but now there's a central dispatch. You know, when you call 911, it doesn't necessarily get answered by your local department, but
Actually, it does get answered by the local police department. Then here in Westchester County, there's 52 different pickup points, and then most of them are police stations. And then when you tell me the fire, medical, or police assist, and then they push a button to dispatch. Either fire goes up to the county dispatch center, county dispatch does medical and fire, or the police take care of the local police issues.
So when you dial 911 here in the village of Mamaroneck, it actually is answered by the police department
It actually
here?
rings here in the police department. Unless they're unusually busy, then I understand they have a cutover switch that will direct it straight to county.
Pretty remarkable. And that was spearheaded by volunteers, you know.
Yes, it was. And coming up, we have the Tappan Zee Bridgemen, and they're leading the Briarcliff Fire Department. A little more jazzy.
A little more contemporary than
Yes.
some of the bands.
A little different marching.
Well, look at this wonderful.
Yeah, you're going to get an old Mack fire truck, and if actually that's kind of back in the 50s, and followed by a more current version right behind it, to give you an idea how the equipment
Isn't
has
that
changed
gorgeous?
and the size of it. And the brass cans on the running boards are what we called Indian tanks. They were filled with water, and you took them out into the brushland to put out the brush fires. And they're heavy. Figure 5 pounds a gallon, 20 gallons in there.
It's a mighty heavy canister. Yeah. I must say the pacing of this parade is extraordinarily good.
Yeah, they seem to have doing very well with it this evening. We didn't seem to get the long breaks that we had. Of course, you got to keep in mind they have to keep the traffic moving on the Boston Post Road, so they need those breaks to keep the Boston Post Road moving.
Sure. Well, we also have some help from our state troopers, don't we?
The sheriff's organization comes into town and helps out. I believe they're another volunteer operation, those sheriff's men.
You know, interestingly, as I was reading that journal I told you about, they commented so many times on the progressiveness of the Mamaroneck Fire Department. Interesting, they said in every way the Mamaroneck Fire Department from its inception throughout its career has been in the forefront of progress. Its achievement in the performance of duty at home and in competitive endeavor exhibit a long line of notable personal and company accomplishments.
We've always been very active, not only locally but through the state and a lot of other fire organizations. A good number of our members have participated in and have been officers in those functions. And a lot of us that grew up in the fire department found other things for a period of time. I worked as a state fire instructor teaching new firefighters and served a good number of years at that. And there's others that are doing much the same type of work in other calls. Another area we haven't talked about much is we do have a fireboat here in the village.
That's true. Well,
Okay.
being on Long Island Sound.
It's another specialized division. Also, the EMS service that we have here in the village, which does a superb job, originally started back in the mid-'70s as a division of the fire department.
Now, there was quite an interesting story about the purchase of the first ambulance, as I recall.
Yeah, back we had Mr. John Quadrini went around collecting green stamps. Do you remember green stamps? You say yes, you're in trouble.
A toddler. I do remember green stamps.
But
For
he,
those people who don't know what green stamps are, tell me quickly.
When you went to the grocery store, whatever amount of money you spent, you were given X green stamps equaling a certain value. You took them home, put them in a book, and then you could buy product using the green stamps.
Do you remember how much that first ambulance cost?
I don't. I think it was about $3,000, but I wouldn't.
I remember being told that it was $12,000.
Could well. Oh yeah. Originally the police department had an old Cadillac ambulance that they used for a while, and then it took him 4 or 5 years to collect the money to buy the ambulance.
What a remarkable achievement. It was probably a room full of green stamps. All right. Now, these gentlemen would hail from what department?
Lost track of where we are here. This is the Larchmont Fire Department.
Ah, neighbors.
That's the group that doesn't have the helmets with the flame on them.
Oh,
Remember
I'm
those?
so disappointed. I do remember those, yes. They always made me a little nervous.
Junior members riding in a unit.
Those are our friends from Larchmont. Also come a great distance.
Oh, all the way from Larchmont.
We appreciate that. A long distance to go for a hot dog.
If you're going to have a party, you have to invite all the neighbors.
That's right.
Next unit up, if they make it, is the Tonawanda, New Jersey. Quite many times they end up with the trophy for coming the longest distance.
That's right.
They're out there along the New Jersey, New York line.
Now, those are the folks who usually get stuck on the Tappan Zee Bridge. As I
Yep, that's
recall.
one
Yes.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, those poor guys. And gals. So here. All right, here they come on screen.
I don't know if you noticed that the horn that the chief was... I just kicked something over.
That's
The horn that the chief was carrying, where
you
you see
go.
the flowers in it,
Yes.
those were speaking trumpets. And long before radios and other things came around, that's how the chief gave orders on the fire ground. They spoke through those speaking trumpets.
What do they use now? They have microphones?
Microphones, and most of us have portable radios and things like that that you're aware.
Sure. Well,
And
technology.
it's more singular, one-on-one, where that was talked to the group. That just shows you how technology has changed things.
I also understand that when you're in a fire, it actually is quite noisy.
Oh, yeah. Fire makes a lot of noise.
Yeah, I never knew that before.
Yeah, how many times you sat and listened to a crackling campfire and just, and you put that inside a room where noise and things can
So communication is so important, and I'm sure those horns were not the best.
Yeah, well, in addition, today, when you put a firefighter in his full turnout gear, air pack and mask and everything, you can't shout through those things, so you have to have a mic set up near your throat so that you can actually communicate.
Okay, who are those folks in yellow? We're seeing them actually just come down the street.
I
but they're
believe we
there.
got the West Police Emerald Society coming, and they should be leading the Elmsford Fire Department. There you go, the West Police Emerald Society. That should have been the Westchester County Police Emerald Society. Sometimes the notes are a little short.
It looks like there's a pretty consistently dense crowd throughout the village.
Yeah, it does look that way.
Elmsford Fire Department.
There you go, you get yellow and blue now.
That's a nice combination. How many contingents will we have in total?
Looks like 37 is what's listed if everybody made it into the line of march.
That's a pretty big parade.
Yes, it is. We average usually 30 plus each year.
Yeah. I think the largest I ever remember was 39, and that was an anniversary.
We had one that went real late one year.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
I think it was like 10 o'clock when it finished up.
Oh, it's such a hard job we have to do.
We
It
get a
really
little
is.
overtime pay. A little overtime pay.
It is really delightful sitting here.
There
We
you
have
go.
the best seats for this.
Levittown, New York. I believe that's out on Long Island, I
I
believe.
believe so. I don't recall seeing them here
They
before.
were here last year.
Yeah?
We
We
had
seem
that
to-
same discussion.
Oh, okay. Well, if you say so. I seem to remember we have more people from Connecticut and Westchester. And an occasional one. Now, how do people find out about the parades?
Well, as far as the paraders, the parade committee starts there in January, and they start sending out invitations to all these departments, and then the departments receive them, and they usually get probably a dozen or more, and what they'll sort out and return invitations to the ones they wish to participate in.
I wonder, with the technology we have today, does it go out on a website or go out to?
Well, there is
emails?
information on the websites, and there is a certain amount of emailing, but I think we back it up with the U.S. mail still.
And these gentlemen?
This is the Mount Kisco Ancients, and they're going to be leading the Mount Kisco Fire Department.
Fair number of female participants in this contingent.
Mount Kisco is one of the parades we go to each and every year.
These trucks are so beautifully maintained. Who is designated to wash them? and shine
All
them?
members.
Is that right? Do you get
We have
time?
weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly what we call truck cleanings, where the trucks get washed down a lot. In the wintertime, it has to happen a little more often, simply because of the road salts and things of that nature. And they're kept in warm firehouses. They're not sitting out for the most part, so it's easy enough to keep clean. That's easily said, but there's a lot of elbow grease goes on.
I'm sure. Are the younger members, have they earned their keep?
Oh yeah, they're initiated into cleaning very early.
I see. I'll bet that's what you do with visitors to the firehouse.
When we can get away with it, absolutely.
I remember visiting castles in, I think it was in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and they would have you put dusters on your feet, over your shoes, so that you walked through the palace or the mansions, and you'd be polishing the floors as you went. It's very smart those Danes, very smart. And I could see you guys doing that with visitors to the firehouse. Here, have a little dust mop. All right, where are we in our marching?
It looks like we got the town of Greenberg coming, and something called the Thomas H. Slater Jerome Bump. No, I guess that's Jerome Bump Robinson Drum Corps. That's a lot of name.
Right. So we're about halfway through, I would think.
Yes, this should be ending the 2nd Division. So we'll be right about halfway when we got 2 more units to go.
Now I see that the village of Mamaroneck assigns a marshal to each division.
Yes. Basically, each one of the companies gets to have a marshal at one of the divisions.
And is he there to shepherd them along and make sure that they march in the right direction?
Actually, when they're down in lineup, the marshals work to get everybody lined up, and so they step off at the right time in the right place. Those that know the village down along Mamaroneck Avenue School, they line them up in all those side streets. So as the parade goes by, when it's your turn to come out of the side street, they get you moving.
Okay, that's so important. How many people do we have in our fire department?
Well, we're charted for 300, but we're probably somewhere around 200, and half of that is the Dirty Hands people.
But I would say just about everybody's involved in the parade in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, in some way, form, because we also have carnival going on at Harbor Island, so there are people down there doing the work. Okay, here we go with the Thomas H. Slaughter Jerome Bump Robinson Drum Corps.
Okay, a little lively group here.
It's a little different beat. Somebody must have a bubble machine in the neighborhood. There's an awful lot of bubbles coming down the street. This is the Greenberg Fire Department, and this looks like their junior corps leading it.
Another ancient pumper.
Yeah, you can really tell from the difference of the equipment. Yes.
Our friends from Hartsdale appear to be a little impatient.
There must be a stop at the Boston Post Road.
Right.
If you look at the size of these pieces of equipment, you'll understand why we had to build a new firehouse.
I do, man. Ken, has there ever been a real emergency during a parade?
Yes, a number of years ago there was a fire up on Halsted Avenue. It was a garage fire up behind one of the buildings right about parade time that we had to go off to. And on another occasion,
Our friends from Bogota. Notice it's Bogota here.
Yeah, they're
not
in
Bogota.
competition with Totowa for that longest distance trophy. I like their helmets.
Great.
Some years ago, we were going out of town to a parade, and one of these buildings down here on just before the corner of Palmer Avenue had a major fire in it. We were all there in uniform fighting a fire.
Oh, my.
Marching uniform. And it was a hot night, as I recall.
I'm sure you shed the uniforms
Very quickly, but it was quite a cleaning bill.
Oh, I'll bet. Did you get to the parade?
No, we never got to parade. We were here for quite a period.
I seem to remember hearing something like that when one or two contingents didn't show up one year. I mean, there was some emergency in their town. And
Yep, these things pop up from time to time.
Sure. Now,
There's usually, when you leave town, you do leave standby crews and stuff that are behind to handle any emergencies that come up. But if the alarm comes in before you get to roll out of town, guess what?
You're there.
You're there.
I seem to have heard an awful lot of sirens this past week here in the village.
I've noticed more of them, and I really don't know why, unless we're just more alarms for one reason or another. But it seems like we also get quite a few. You got to remember the ambulances go through a lot.
That's true.
You get a lot of ambulance calls and things like that add to it. You get the police running to emergencies. Got the ambulance running to emergencies, and then the fire department gets in the act. We all get to make our own noise, you know.
I know that you enjoy the thrill of it, but of course, it's hard for a citizen to know how many are real emergencies and how many might be false alarms or.
Well, I've often wondered if you're new to the community on the nights when we have Chiefs Night and some of those, and then we had the night when they brought the Boy Scouts into town about midnight and they paraded them all around using the fire apparatus, sirens and horns. I often wonder what they're thinking.
Where have I moved? Was this a good decision? Well, it's funny you mentioned that. When we first moved here in 1981, there was some kind of an exercise, and a fire truck hit a wire and blew out the power. We were a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I would think so. Looks like we're moving towards the 3rd Division, and we just had the marshals go by. We had past Chief Barry Castarella and his aide, Angelo Spadaro. And this is the Portchester American Legion Band. And this twirler's been twirling in these parades as long as I can remember.
Now, she isn't the one with the fire
Yeah,
baton,
she used to
is
do the fire baton.
Oh, and she doesn't do that anymore?
It was awful windy tonight. That might not be a good maneuver. And they're leading the Portchester department, and they quite often win most men in line. And they usually look very sharp when they're coming down the street.
Thanks to our director, Herman Cornejo, and his wonderful camera people for the great shots they're getting tonight.
Yes.
But of course, we also want to thank Vincent's Garage for the loan of their flatbed truck, which has enabled us to put our cameras up high where we can get great shots. The Explorer Post 700.
Yeah, there's a number of them around the county.
Well, it makes great sense.
And here comes one of those hand-pulled hose units that we have one like this over in Mamaroneck.
That's right. There's one that you can use, that you can see. It's in a case.
Yeah, it just sits on the floor behind the trucks.
Oh.
And as you can see, it's manpower.
Yes.
No horsepower, manpower.
Did we have horses when they first started?
Absolutely. In fact, just behind where you and I are sitting is where some of the horses came out of. And I understand the Serlin building, which is now Molly Spillane's, also had a horse facility in the basement at one point in time. Yeah, well, there was carriage building right here behind us where we're sitting, going back around the turn of the century.
Well, I think that I'd read that when the Hook and Ladder was first built, it was only one story. And then a second story was put on.
Yeah, we have pictures of it with the one story, and it was 1902 they added the second story and put that fancy facade on the front of it. Which I understand is now a historically marked building, which might also be some issues for the village.
Sure. Well, I'm sure they'd like to use it in some fashion.
Yeah, but if they can't really go in and make any changes, if it's historically not supposed to change the look.
Well, maybe they can keep the facade and change what's behind it. That's often done. I understand that our train station is going to be
I was reading that.
renovated.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that, if they hold the look too.
Oh, I believe that's the intent.
Yeah.
That they are to do that, but it will be restaurants or a restaurant, a destination restaurant.
Yeah, something.
And
I wonder about the parking, fighting the commuters for the parking.
Well, but probably in the evening when the restaurant would operate, it's probably
I don't
not
know,
a
when I go
problem.
through there, it still seems to have an awful lot of cars.
Really? Now, Ken, tell us what building is going up right at the top of Mamaroneck Avenue, where that used to be a little travel agency.
I don't know. It looks like it's going to be a gorgeous building. I'm thinking that front round is going to probably be glass somehow.
It looks like it
Like
would be,
yeah.
yes.
But I have never seen a plan for it, but it's interesting to watch it come up. Now, here you go with a real old-timer. That's a hand-pump siren there. You had to have somebody ride along and twist the siren for you.
Must be quite a bit of work to keep these old trucks in good working order.
Yes, it is.
Where do they get the parts?
Some of them you actually make. Take the broken one and say, I need one of these, and they actually have to machine them.
Now, I'd read in my history commemorative of a benevolence society in the village of Mamaroneck for the fire department.
Yes, there is a benevolent organization, and actually they provide life insurance for all of the members, and the amount that you are awarded if you die in the line of service, actually it's changed. When you pass on, there is a block of money that's given to the family. I believe we're looking at the Celtic cross pipe and drums. And they'll be leading the Darien Fire Department. White shirt and tie, looking very sharp.
Interesting. We were talking about history a little while ago, and that it was a fire, a New Year's Eve fire in 1884, that inspired the creation of the Hook and Ladder Company.
Right. A number of what they called the leading citizens of the community at that time got together and decided that we needed a fire department.
And the first meetings were always in somebody's storefront.
Yeah, because it was mostly the merchants along the avenue here that would been what the civic organizations had been based around.
Now, of course, we didn't always have a reservoir to supply water.
No, that was the unit up there on Mamaroneck Avenue, which it's still there up on Mamaroneck Avenue. A lot of people don't realize that was part of our drinking water for a good number of years before we tied into the New York City water system.
But before that even existed, the fire department had to acquire water. I mean, you didn't have pressure.
No, we were taking water from people's wells and things of that nature. Before the municipal water systems came into effect, they didn't have fire hydrants as we know them today. Most people take fire hydrants for granted, but they're really unique to heavily populated parts of the country. You get a ways out of a heavily populated area, and hydrant systems cease to exist. Back in my early days when I was teaching firefighting, I got sent up county to teach a pumping course, and I got to the chapter on fire hydrants, and there was all this giggling noise coming from the audience, and I'm thinking what this is. They didn't have a fire hydrant anywhere in town. Wasn't much good teaching them about fire hydrants.
Right, so
I probably learned more that night than they did.
Margot, we take things for granted, but it makes a huge difference. Now, also, fire alarms were sounded from the belfry of the Episcopal Church.
Yes. There's a bell sits up on the lawn by the police station. That was a fire bell. And somewhere down by Volunteers, they had a great big, like metal, round piece of steel that I've been told they used to go down and beat on to call the firefighters to quarters.
Now we have a foghorn, don't we?
Actually, at the moment, we don't. There was one on Mamaroneck before it got knocked down. It has yet to be replaced. We're living off the electronic world. However, if the electronics go down, there's some issues.
Well, you used to be able to identify the part of the village that was in danger.
Absolutely.
Right? By the codes.
Every corner in the village had a box number. And they also started with this area along the avenue always started with a 3. The Oriente Avenue where you are always started with a 5. And it was sectioned off in town that way. So you knew which section of the town you were headed to.
Right, you knew whether to hurry home.
Right.
All right, who have we got now?
All right, we got the Westchester Emerald Society. Firefighter Emerald Society, I believe. And they're leading the Rye Fire Department. Tell you got to invite all the neighbors to the party or you're in trouble.
I hope they return the favor.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They don't invite us, we don't invite them, you know.
Now, interestingly, the fire department was independent until 1901, when the fire department came under the village of Mamaroneck.
Yeah, well, because of costs and things like that, the village at that point started to pay for buildings and equipment. Well, it's a lot of money out of your paycheck every week if you're buying the trucks and the gas and.
Right. But
even in those days, had to feed the horses. It was expensive to pay the high.
Sure, and people had dances and picnics and what have you, and passed the hat in order to support their
absolutely.
Fire department. So it certainly was service.
Yeah. In fact, another thing you might find if you're out traveling around the country, you'll come into what they call boot day or something. The fire department will go out on a local highway and they'll stand there with their fire boots and ask for donations.
Right.
In fact, they were doing something that's similar up on Central Avenue for a handicapped person here a month or so back. The Hartsdale Fire Department, I think it was the Hartsdale Fire Department, were out on the street with the boots collecting money for a disabled person.
Now, does the village of Mamaroneck ever do that? Do they have a fundraiser?
Yeah, some years back we had a young fella that had I want to say brain cancer or something like that. In fact, they just had a spaghetti dinner here over St. Vito's last week for a young person who's very sick with a brain problem. And they raised funds, and that was mostly supported by the fire department and St. Vito's.
Now, the village fire department does have its annual carnival.
Yes, that's going on now, and it does raise funds, and a certain amount of that money is donated back into the village. The remainder of it is used to pay for our social events and those kinds of things that go on in the course of the year. I believe we have something called a unit called Company B, which is probably leading the Purchase Fire Department. With these lights that are shining on us, it's getting harder for us to pick up the units. I would say this parade is doing our 125th anniversary proud.
I would think so. It's a beautiful, beautiful parade.
And Mother Nature is cooperating. That's even better.
You know, I had no doubts. I'm sorry. I know that there were a couple of touch-and-go moments, but I just believe. I don't remember a night when we've had to cancel. We've had a couple of
We've
scares.
had a couple near misses, but I don't know that we had
I
to
don't think
cancel.
we have. And when you think about it, all the people coming so far, and all the organization that goes into this, it would just be heartbreaking to have to cancel. But we have really, really lucked out. Maybe it'll rain later, but we won't care.
Well,
This is always the most beautiful time because it's just getting dark and the lights are just gorgeous. It makes it a little harder for us to read sometimes what's coming by. Now there's the Purchase fire truck. Now here I found in my notes that there was a disastrous fire on Orienta Point on August 26, 1892. And the residents of Orienta were so grateful that they donated $500 to the Mamaroneck Fire Department for its good work at that fire. And with that money, Mamaroneck purchased a new four-wheel hose carriage.
yep. So just
$500.
in. $500 wouldn't pay for the tires currently.
Oh.
It's a lot of interesting stuff when you start reading through some of these older historical books. I happen to have one here. Probably won't pick it up on camera, but it's from our 100th anniversary, and there's quite a bit of history of the Hook and Ladder Company, which, as I said earlier, is the founding company of the fire department. And it goes into the how the different companies came and the time frame,
Sure.
and it lists the chiefs from the start right on up to current.
It is, and it's important that that history be commemorated, to be remembered, because, you know, especially for those of us who moved to the village,
Yeah.
who don't
Well,
have
it's
the
also
family legacy.
those of us that whose families have lived in the community for a long time. One of the first, and Chief Number 4, I think he was actually, I think it's great grandfather, but I get lost in the greats. But it's the family's been here a long time.
So I didn't know that about you, Ken. I didn't know that you were a native of the village of Mamaroneck. I mean, really, that you grew up here and that your family was from here.
You see that white building across the street? I grew up on the top floor.
No kidding. That's Chatsworth. Oh, okay.
It used to be LaRocco's grocery store on Mamaroneck Avenue when I was a kid, right next to Hook and Ladder. I grew up on the top floor. Used to watch the trucks come and go. Then I joined the fire department. How'd that happen?
Well, how did it happen? So you've seen quite a bit of changes. Do you still see the father-son relationships here?
Yes, we're still seeing father-sons and father-daughters now, which wasn't something that happened that many years ago, but we're definitely having father-daughters, father-sons, lots of brothers, lots of first cousins. When you actually get into the fire department, there's a lot of related. Doesn't mean that others aren't in there, but there is a lot of people who have grown up in the fire department. We currently have Scarsdale went on by us. And if Germantown is here, that'll end the 3rd division. And we got one more division with half a dozen units if the wind doesn't blow us away.
Oh, please. I know that we're too heavy for the wind to ever touch
Well,
us.
you notice what it's done to the flag over
Yes.
Mamaroneck Avenue? It's
Yes.
winding it up.
Yes. But I think we're pretty well grounded. Not to worry.
Oh, there's Germantown.
Where is
They are
Germantown?
Up in Connecticut, but I'm not sure exactly where.
Oh,
In
near
the Danbury.
Danbury.
Yeah,
Okay.
Danbury area. I'm
Well,
glad
those
they had the sign on the side of the truck.
Yeah, right. Well, it
that bailed
certainly
us
helps
out.
us.
And here again, I was talking about tankers before. Here's another tanker, and those orange things on the side are actually ponds that they put on the street and put the water into, and then relay it off to the fire ground.
Okay, we're back with Mayor Savold and our newest trustee in the village of Mamaroneck, Nick Allison. We'll have to wait just a moment.
Round Hill.
Basically, we have the town of Greenwich coming through, and they got quite a few pieces of equipment spread out. So
Okay, we'll do
could
our
be a
best.
moment.
Okay. We never talk over fire trucks or bagpipes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I can see why.
Okay. Kathy, we were talking earlier about the future for the old hook and ladder firehouse. Of course, now the new firehouse is built and the companies have moved in.
Not entirely, but pretty much. Right. We don't have all the punch list items done. The village manager is here. He can talk about that in more detail. He's standing there. He can come in next.
That would be
We didn't
great.
have room for all three of us, but we can really. What the plans are? We don't have specific plans, but we had promised the community when the bonds were let for the new firehouse that we would somehow, either through sale or lease with an option to develop, get some cash from that asset to help offset the cost of the new firehouse. So we're working with some real estate professionals. One gentleman is volunteering his time and helping us trying to figure out what to do.
Okay. Are we bound to keep that building in its present shape, or
The facade has local historic landmark status, but the rest of the building does not.
Okay,
Just
so
the
the
facade.
facade could be maintained and another building erected behind it. Okay, well that would be very interesting, and hopefully
Yeah.
it will inure to the
You
benefit
know,
of the village.
There has been some interest from some of the local restaurateurs and at least one developer. And we'll make sure, especially in this economic climate, that we get the best deal that we can for the taxpayers.
Good. So Nick, what's your reaction to being on the board? You kind of came in at the very last minute.
Yeah, well, I'm
you
just
coming up
happy
to
to just to pitch in at this point. I'm just trying to learn what I can.
Okay.
There's a lot to read, a lot of people to talk to, and my reaction is, I'm just eager to get started.
Welcome. Did you grow up in the village?
No, I grew up in the town of Eastchester, actually in the village of Tuckahoe. But we've been living here since 2006. My wife and I moved down for the schools in Rhinebeck.
Great. Well, welcome. We look forward to getting to know you better.
Oh, thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you
problem.
so much.
Appreciate it.
And I hope everybody has a good evening.
Okay, enjoy.
Take care.
See you later.
We got North White Plains going by. Looks like we're going to get Glenbrook, Turn of the River, Broad Channel, and Hawthorne that finishes out. I think we're
Okay.
filling Hawthorne, which was one of the units that didn't make their early slot, is what's coming through at the moment.
Okay. This is the most exciting part of the parade because everybody has to get in their last licks.
Exactly.
They know it's going to. We're joined
Exactly.
by our new village manager in the village of Mamaroneck. Rich, thank you for stopping by.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Was it fun?
It was great. It was wonderful. And the weather held out. It was a perfect night for everybody.
Right. Now, you don't come from that far away, as I recall.
No, I grew up in Yonkers. I live in Ossining, so it's only a half an hour drive.
Great.
Not far at all. I know Westchester pretty well.
Good. Now, as I remember, you worked in Pelham before?
Yes,
Is that
I was in
correct?
Pelham for 7 years. Wonderful community. I had a great time working there. But wanted some new challenges and came here to Mamaroneck for them.
Okay. Hawthorne, we hear you.
Actually, this is the end of the parade because that's our units. That's the baseball team. It is finished.
I think it is. I think the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department is going to need to learn to make some noise.
That's right.
They're
It's a
just
celebration.
not living up to history.
Perfect.
Since you came from Monson, you like experience with a volunteer fire department.
That's right. Sure.
Right. Well, this was quite a night for the 125th anniversary of the fire department.
That's right. Big celebration. I don't know how many different departments we have from other communities, but they're from Connecticut. They're from way upstate.
37.
Yep, 37.
Yes.
And we've got them as far away as New Jersey as well.
That's right. One of the largest parades ever.
Yep.
And it looked like just about everybody showed up this time, too.
It sounds, I think
Which
so.
is really good.
And Mamaroneck's Fire Department parade is the parade. It's not just a parade. It's
Is that right? And you're giving
That's
us
right.
perspective from other parts
Around
of the county.
Westchester, sure.
Is that right? Well,
Yes.
I mean, we always felt that way, but nice to know that view is shared. Well, this is great. You know, we'd love to talk with you about things happening in the village. If you had one thing that you wanted to say to the folks in the village of Mamaroneck, what might that be?
It's just I'm very happy to be here. Mamaroneck's a great community, and I look forward to working with everybody, the fire department, all the employees of the village, the staff, the police department, and all the elected officials. It's been great so far, and I'm looking forward to a long time here ahead.
Well, we're looking forward to getting to know you better. Thanks
Thank you.
so much for
Thanks for
stopping
having
by.
me.
Thanks for
Appreciate
stopping.
it.
Thank you.
Bye now. Ken, I think it's the end of our time together.
Yeah, we've completed another one, Alice.
I guess we
Good
have. I
job.
don't even know how many this is,
Let's
but I'm
not
sure
count.
you've been,
Let's
you've
not
been
count.
putting notches in your belt, huh? Okay, well, let's say a few thank yous to all the folks who've made this parade happen, or make our coverage of the parade happen. Of course, the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department made the parade happen. But first, let me just say thank you to Hector's Village Cafe, the luncheonette down at the corner, for the use of its electricity, to Piccolo Molino. They let us run cables through their restaurant, and that's no small thing, and through their courtyard. Vincent's Garage, of course, for the loan of their truck, which was just invaluable. Of course, to the Christian Science reading room for allowing us to use their parking lot
for a
to
control
set
center.
up. We start setting up at 10 o'clock in the morning. And there have been a myriad, there are probably over 30 volunteers who've been here today to make this parade happen. Starting up with our coordinator for the evening, Seth Rothman, who's a new employee of LMC, but not a new face around here. He worked for LMC all through high school and is a devoted volunteer. Of course, Erik did an enormous amount. He's our executive director, but he did a tremendous amount with his cables and transport. And Erik had numerous assistants, of course, Andrew Rio, Christina Carino-Forrest, David Soto-Jofre, Christian Vogler, John Nesbitt, Jessica Pozzuoli, of course, our dear friend over who's the assistant or associate producer, associate director of LMC. Dena Schumacher, our devoted Studio One coordinators here. Stephen Martinez, as David I told you about, Peter Callahan, Herman Cornejo, as I mentioned, who's our dear friend who is here back directing for us tonight. John Nesbitt. And did I say Christian Vogler? If not, let me say it now. Laura Cruz-Colon was our stage manager, invaluable to us. She kept us running and kept our guests in line. Sasha Mitsch was on camera. Stephen Martinez, as I mentioned, on camera. We had a roving camera. That was David and Remy Litvin. I think we've pretty much covered it. We have a huge breakdown crew because all this equipment that came down has to go back into the studio. So we've got Sasha's going to help breaking down, Peter Callahan, David, Remy, Lisa Kehrle in audio, and Austin Kehrle will be here to also help clean up. We couldn't do it without all of these devoted volunteers, and it's great to have you all here. We're so glad that we've had a wonderful crowd tonight for the parade and all of those fine contingents. 37 contingents.
37 contingents, and come visit us at Harbor Island. There's lots going on down there. We've got the carnival goes on through Sunday evening. We have the fireworks on the 4th. Always a great show, and we try to sink Harbor Island with all the bodies that we collect down there. So
he's only kidding. He's only kidding.
See if you can come down and help us sink Harbor Island. Let's go.
Well, as always, I'm Alice Bloom.
Ken Barron.
And for all the folks at LMC-TV, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And if I've left anybody out in my thank yous, please forgive me. As always, it's a hearty thanks to all the folks behind the scenes who make us look as good as we do.
Again, thank you, and come join us at Harbor Island.
Thanks.